When I unboxed and reviewed the Apple Studio display, I immediately thought of how amazing daily driving this monitor was going to be. I was in for a very rude awakening. I knew Apple had no intention of Windows users connecting their machines, but still I was arrogantly jumping for joy when I got mine. 3 days later, I actually got to use the monitor on my PC. But, well, oh boy, the problems only got worse from there. There was immediately this weird artifacting thing happening. I'm not sure if it was the wire I used, but at this point, as I said in my first video, this was like my 5th wire, and I had got this far at this point. I didn't want to wait and then order another one and then have to return the one that I had and then maybe find out the exact same thing was going to happen. Now, because I'm using this DisplayPort to Thunderbolt wire, I can't use the webcam speakers or mic. You'll need a Mac for that, along with updating and changing any of the display settings. Because there's no buttons on this display, in fact, the only real way you can interact with it is the 4 USB 3 connections on the back, one being an input and accepting Thunderbolt signals. So get your Mac out, download whatever updates you need, change your brightness, and switch back over to Windows. And despite the stripped down experience, it's not bad. I mean, sure, if you can forget the $1,600 you spent to stare at a giant iPad, the color calibration really isn't like any other, and many can attest to this. The PPI of 217 practically is unmatched, and even displays that do compete with it still seem to fall short. Sure, you don't get everything that the Mac users get, but you do get one of the best viewing experiences available. Apple tends to set the trend for what will catch on, and with the Apple Studio Display and Pro XDR, they did just that. Many monitor manufacturers pivoted their designs to echo or even straight up copy the Apple Studio Display, but still nothing has the presence or build quality of this display. Yes, in most cases, the Apple Studio Display is double and sometimes even triple the price of the other options. Being Apple, to pick a matte, nano screen, or even a vase mount option, all of these cost their respective hundreds of dollars. Being price conscious may be the best thing, especially if you're going to get this for a Windows configuration, but, well, let's talk about that. The specs of this monitor are nothing to scoff at, but the 5K 60Hz panel isn't exactly impressive. There are a few things they could have done to make it better, like thinner bezels, buttons, and surprisingly, it's how much they missed on this display. And I don't really get why. I know Windows integration wasn't on Apple's radar with this monitor, but why not think about it? Most companies make their products for both sides of the coin. This could have been Apple's way of pushing the PC market without actually jumping in. Maybe it's just me, but the Apple Studio Display is everything I've wanted to game on a Mac for. That crisp Apple color calibration, still just being Apple to barely use this monitor with your PC is enough for now, I suppose. So how has my experience been so far? The Apple Studio Display does a lot right, but not everything. And for the Mac, it's pretty amazing. It just falls short whenever you try to incorporate Windows. But still, this display was not made for Windows. It could have been a great crack at Windows from Apple, but it wasn't. I think if Apple does decide to refresh this display, hopefully they do add more support for Windows, but, well, we can do nothing but hope. The Apple Studio Display is not the best display for your Windows computer. In fact, I would say it's barely usable. Even if your computer has a Thunderbolt port, you likely won't get the most out of this display, as it's highly probable you still won't be able to use speakers, the mic, or even the webcam. Which, sure, is fine, but with the hardware being there, I'd personally like to use it. Again, a Mac, all of these things work great, but why not Windows as well? When looking for the best display, you might be tempted by the minimalistic design and the awesome features and a stunning panel. But for now, I would recommend waiting. If you're a Windows user, even if a refresh doesn't add better Windows support, you likely will be able to find one of these much cheaper on local markets. Now, still, this monitor is 10 times better than most, especially on the platform that Apple had in mind. So yes, you can close the gap between Apple and Windows with this display, already with just a little DisplayPort to Thunderbolt wire, but I really don't recommend you get this display with the sole purpose of doing so. Just wait and see what comes from Apple in the next year or so. Of course, if you're going about getting this monitor from a different angle, like a multi-use workstation, well, it might make more sense for you, and I recommend you watch my first unboxing video where I add a little bit more details about how you can approach that. I'm sure this will be a hot topic, as it's not entirely clear what this release was supposed to be, but I say make the most out of what you can. Thank you guys so much for watching and all the support. It really means a lot to me, and if you liked the video, feel free to leave a like. If you didn't, you can leave a dislike, and if you really liked it, then you can leave a sub. Let's keep growing this community, and if you liked the video, please tell me why you liked it, and if you didn't like it, tell me why you didn't like it as well. Regardless, thank you guys for watching, especially if you made it here. Bye.